Thanks, Amit. I mean, yes, I can feel the excitement in the room. It's a fascinating mix as well. I was thinking, because on the one hand we've got your side of things, and we've very much got Annika coming at it from almost a deep academic knowledge, and then corporate rebels, very practical, and Ukraine, very practical, study tours, really. So I think it's a fantastic mix of things. I should also say that as you say, it's early days, but some of the things we've been doing at the Centre in Europe, that Thinkers 50 has been involved in, we've held a series of webinars with Boundaryless on the higher model, featuring some very eminent thinkers and practitioners, including Professor Bill Fisher from IMD, Kevin Nolan from GE Appliances, who I know is joining this call, and others. We've published a new book on ecosystems, what we call our lean publishing model. We're able to publish books very rapidly, and with contributions from some really interesting people. Recommend the book to you. And we've been working with some organizations that you wouldn't expect necessarily to be looking at this model, including, government organizations that are looking to create ecosystems and see their world through an ecosystem lens. So very exciting, I think, and we look forward to keeping in touch and sharing more knowledge as we go along. So let's kick off a conversation here then. Amit, I mean, we've kind of talked about what we're all doing, and I know we don't have the answers yet, but how do companies maximize human value in the Internet of Things era and the AI era? You mentioned it, you alluded to the fact we're going to have answers. What do you see happening?
This is a great question as to how fundamental humans will actually make a contribution over a period of time. The fundamental thing is, a lot of people will really try to understand what value is per se. I think what is the value in terms of whether it's the productivity that I'm looking at, but I think fundamentally we have to understand as to how we are able to contribute positively to society is what I really look at. If I'm able to contribute positively in terms of upliftment through these models, that is what it is going to be. In fact, when I say AI or when you say Internet of Things, I think this is for the first time in the history that we are able to actually have information on the tip of our fingertips. If I'm looking at a developmental problem, the developmental problem can actually get solved through information because I have a rapid understanding of what's happening on the ground. If I'm really talking about a country like India, today I know as to each geography, as to what are the challenges of development that I see. And basis those sets of real numbers, I'm able to create models for giving things into the public. So if you have talk about education or healthcare, I'm able to understand this is the location where there are challenges. I create a business model accordingly for those challenges, which could be localized, which could solve a certain problem that actually exists. And then, of course, if you really look at it, that is where a human contribution will have to be really looked at. I think we will have to go beyond it. It's going to be, we will have to ask a question to ourselves as people. What is the contribution I'm making rather than starting to ask what my country is doing for me? Those are typical questions that actually happen, but we need to really look at those point of views and take forward. But I think fundamentally we are sitting at a cusp of change because of the information that we have, which can alter capitalism per se, which can do away with the negatives of the capitalistic society, which makes it very, very, the disparity is huge, and this can actually change. And in fact, we can create solutions. In fact, today, I think the idea is going to be that we have to move towards solutions rather than saying, I'm going to create a product. What is it that I'm trying to solve? What is the problem that I'm solving? And if I'm able to solve it, that is where the answers are actually going to be. And that is how you will have to understand your industry structures and so on and so forth. The traditional view of an industry structure is going to change. And that is what we have to look at. In fact, the way we are competing itself is going to change, because it's not going to be something, your competitive advantage is going to be something which is just going to last you for 3 months, because easily it can get copied. So you have to really live on a stack of data and create something. And that is where value is going to get created. Enterprises will have to just enable its people to be entrepreneurial. What I would always say, today is the age of not job seekers. It's going to be the age of job creators. And if enterprises are able to do that, that is where things are really going to change. And that is what we need to function and focus on. So move away from job seeking to job creation across the world. And that is how solutions are actually going to come through.
I mean, you're suggesting that we have to go out and create our own jobs. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah,
I think so. In fact, each one of us has to be an entrepreneur, each one of us, because
right.
it's the value that I'm doing. In fact, how many of us, if you really look at it, the models or what we were talking about in the past, say the IT models of the past are passé. So it's actually going to be very different. Like, in fact, the very fundamental model of having 100,000 people, 500,000 people in enterprises is actually going to be long gone and dead. It's going to be small, what you call agile systems, which are actually going to be working. So today, Descent 2 are a very agile system, create one of the most fantastic ideas in the world. And then, of course, so it's just two people effectively, but they create something very, very strong and robust. So why is it that we can't really create some of those ideas itself? So that is what needs to be done. So it's the world of large organizations is gone. I think it is going to be agile, small, swift, mean enterprises of the future.
Micro enterprises, indeed, micro enterprises.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so if I could comment on that,
please do, Annika.
I think it's very important to sort of make explicit the underlying questions, because the question, how do you maximize human value in the IoT era? It's a very broad and it's a very complex question, because under that it's covering a number of very important areas where we have some information, and then in some other areas we don't know that much yet. So one of the most obvious field, right, is how we can motivate human beings. And here we know pretty much. We can go back to McGregor's theories, the X and Y. If you have a leader and an executive leadership that believe in the X theory, you will never have any possibility to maximize the human value in that organization. And if you would apply what we actually know about the importance of including people, creating a culture of trust, decentralized decision making, and with the information technology, make sure that information is democratically distributed. All that, we can do a lot of things. But then in parallel with that, to answer your question, we have the machine human interface. Right, and what will machines do, and what will human beings do in the future, and how do we then maximize the human potential in that context? That is a whole different question. And then back to what Amir or Mr. Kapoor was talking about, the organizations. We might not have very many large corporations in the future, so that means that everyone that want to be on the job market and be able to share the value creation and therefore maybe be paid, need to be able to be an entrepreneur and make sure to contribute with value and stay relevant, right? So, which means that they have to take a whole different approach to their own self evolution, their own brand, and stay relevant and be able to maybe shift jobs every second year or whatever it will be, and maybe not even be able to apply job for an employer anymore, but actually, as you said, to create your own job, right, and be part of that. So I think it's so complex. We have so huge questions that need to be analyzed in order to answer that question you asked.
I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a big question. We need big answers. That's what we need.
Right.
Some big answers. But I mean, we don't have them just yet. It's true. I mean, it's interesting you're talking about, not just organizations staying relevant. Clearly, individuals have to stay relevant in this fast changing world. I was talking to somebody, actually a former minister in Singapore, Ellen, if I could come back to you. And they were saying that there's the social contract between the people and the government in Singapore is very much, they expect people to reskill. They expect people to retrain if necessary to make sure that it's the creation thing of, you are responsible for being relevant, and you are responsible in society and in your world for making sure you have skills that are still applicable. Have you encountered that attitude in Singapore?
No, to be honest, not yet in that way. But I think it is interesting, though, that when we say to people, what I've seen at Corporate Rebels, in the short time that I've been there. When we say to people that they need to take ownership of the way they train their skills or the way they fit into the organization, I think with that ownership, it also comes a bit more of actually being able to act upon that. So I'd be very interested to see how they actually do that in Singapore, where they not only say, you need to take this yourself and you need to be accountable for that. What are they then doing to actually have people have that feeling that they actually are? Because, a lot of the times in organizations, we say, we want you to be, say, innovative, and we want you to come up with ideas. And then we look, what's actually happened, and we see bureaucracy where ideas, nothing's done with that. So, I don't have the answers to that yet, maybe in a few years. But I think that's an interesting point to look at as well then. Okay,
I'm going to try and pronounce your name again, Evgenia. Okay, I'm trying. It'll get better as I get to know you better. How do things look in your part of the world? I mean, what does automation? I mean, do people look with fear at automation and the advance of robotics, or are people more optimistic? I mean, I have to say it's very mixed, certainly in the UK.
People here a bit scared of such things because, we don't have here even the retail stores like Amazon Go with machines, so and we try to develop this sphere. We try to digitalize everything, and we're at the beginning of this process right now.
Okay. We've agreed that there's some big questions and that we need some big answers, and that we all have a lot of work to do. All the centres have a lot of work to do in terms of trying to find answers and to create new knowledge. But if I can, Annika, I'm going to return to you and ask you probably another big question. What would be your tips for organisations that are trying to create human value? What would you recommend if someone's watching this now and they want to go away tomorrow and start to make a difference in their organisation? What would you recommend? I know you've studied the field, so hopefully you have some answers.
Yes. So if you look purely on people management and that thing, that area, we know pretty well that the management philosophy in the company. If you, for example, if you take a company like one of the company I've been studying here in the local area, if they say that we're going to create the best workplace in the world, of course that mindset is making or breaking it, and creating culture of inclusiveness, trust, and be able to make failures and take risks. We knew pretty well what kind of culture is fostering more satisfied people and also innovation at the end. It also matter the hiring process. So something that was pretty interesting was if we believe that those new generation companies that are more fast-moving, flat, and decentralized decision-making and all that, they will need people that also are more self-evolving and self-organizing and like small CEOs. So the hiring process is pretty important to sort of select the people. And in the case you maybe haven't thought about that, or you have had a very tall bureaucratic organization and have a lot of people that have been sort of adjusted to that structure, you will need to retrain those people in a high degree. And I know many of the for example, innovation consultancy companies are focusing primarily on huge training programs. Just retrain the brain of existing employees. And of course, when you do that, you also have to change the environment for them in the organization. And then we have talked before about the importance of decentralization, taking a strategic decision where the local knowledge actually is and not on the very top. We something that will be also important to maximize this value of the people and making so they can make an impact is the use of information technology, social media, and other things in the organization. So use IT as an enabler for the humans to maximize their value for the organization and for the users at the end, which are the most important one to focus on.
Okay, thank you. Amit, I'm going to let you have the last word. Turn the question around a little bit. How do we as human beings, because we talk a lot about future-proofing systems and future-proofing organizations, how can we future-proof ourselves as human beings? How can we, you use the word relevant. So how do we stay relevant? How do we do that? How do we stay curious?
So this is a very compelling question, and I would like to share from my new book. My new book just got released day before yesterday, called Disrupting Democracies. And that is where I've actually tried to understand as to how humans are acting in the age of the internet. And quite interestingly, if you really look at it, like today is the time. In fact, I'm going to make a very brash statement. You know, like post 1999, what we have seen is that the world seems to have achieved peak IQ. So 1999, after 1999, we have produced the dumbest set of generation in the world. And if we have produced the dumbest set of generation, and the reason is very simple. The reason is that what we see as information or internet or Twitter or Facebook, we feel that information is knowledge. I'm able to look at the phone, I'm able to share the information, and that is where it seems, oh, that this is just great or whatever. But no, this is just information. That is not intelligence. In fact, what is happening is that I see that people are becoming less and less analytical over a period of time. If that is there, if that is true, that means there are going to be challenges for the future. So we have to future-proof ourselves. We have to be more analytical. I think the biggest answer is, read and read. In fact, read more, because it's the memory which is going to create intelligence for you. It's not social media which is going to create intelligence for you. Move away from it. In fact, I think the only worthwhile thing is probably Twitter. Facebook sucks. LinkedIn sucks. There is absolutely no use for any of these things. I have not seen any known usage of this. In fact, I'm continuing to able to do my job, make money or whatever without using any of this. And that's where it is. So drop it off, read more, become analytical, and that is what is going to make you survive. Get off the phones, get off the internet, and don't become dumb and don't become, I think we are a generation which are moving very fast towards becoming bonobos. We should not really look at that. So the pace is just way too fast and we are moving into that direction. So change that direction and be humans and be intelligent. And that is what you're known for. And stop making dumb decisions. Dumb decisions like understand that science is real. There are people in the world who believe that science is not real. Science is real. Believe that climate change is happening. It is the survival of the human race. First, you have to really talk about it and then move into the future.
Okay, Amit, thank you very much. Enlightening as ever, and controversial possibly. I think you might be showing your age with the social media thing. All of you, thank you so much. Really interesting session. I look forward to convening more of these sessions and hearing what the Rendinhayi centers are up to. That brings this session to an end, I think, hopefully on time. We are, next session, I know we're going to be presenting the Zero Distance Awards, so hopefully people will be able to stay with us for that. I think that's coming up very, very shortly. Again, thank you, and thank you all for tuning in.